Hello friends. In this video we're going to consider the question, what does it mean to know a word? You've probably been asked the question, do you know this word? Well, let's think about this word beautiful. If I asked you, do you know the word beautiful? You'd probably say yes. Beautiful is a pretty common word. But let's talk about what it actually means to know a word. And then we'll come back to this word at the end to see if you really know it. So when we talk about knowing a word, we can look at three forms of knowing: the form, the meaning, and the use of the word. For the form, there's the spoken form, there's the written form, and there's the word parts in the form. When we look at the meaning, we have the form and meaning together, the concept and the referents, and the associations of the meaning. And for use, we have grammar functions, collocations, and constraints. Now let's look at each one of these individually. Okay, so the spoken form of a word. What does it sound like? How do you pronounce it? The written form. What does it look like? How do you spell it? So these are things to consider when we talk about knowing a word. If it's a spoken word, do you know what it sounds like, and do you know how to pronounce it? Like when you hear it, do you know what it sounds like? Even though you know what it sounds like when you hear it, can you say it? When it's written down, do you know what it looks like? Maybe you've only heard a word spoken and you've never seen it written. Do you know how to spell it? So even though you might read it and know what it means, if I say, can you spell this word? Would you be able to spell it? Now the word parts. What is the root of the word and what does it mean? So the root of a word is the main part of the meaning. Is there a prefix and what does it mean? So a prefix is a part of the word that will come at the beginning. It's added onto the beginning to change the meaning of the word a little bit. Or is there a suffix and what does it mean? So a suffix might be a part of a word that we add on the ending to change the meaning of it a little bit. So some words will have prefixes, some will have suffixes, some might have both. Usually there's a root to the word. And do you know what each of those parts mean? Now, when we connect the form, like the written form or the spoken form, and the meaning, do you know what the word means? That's what I asked at the beginning. Do you know what this word means? So if you see a word written down, do you know what it means? Even though you might recognize it. If you hear it, can you tell me what it means? So sometimes somebody will see a word and they'll recognize it, but if I say, what does that mean? They can't explain it. Or let's say you're talking to somebody or trying to write, and you're trying to remember the word. Can you remember it? Can you remember the word for what you mean, what you want to say? So the concept and referents. How many meanings does this word have? So if you look up a word in the dictionary, does it have more than one meaning? Does it mean what I think it means? Sometimes if a word has more than one meaning, and you see it in a sentence, you're like, wait a minute, in that sentence it doesn't mean what I'm used to it meaning. It doesn't mean what I thought it meant. What about the associations? Like, what is it connected to? What are the synonyms for this word? What are the antonyms? So synonyms are words that have similar meaning. Antonyms are words that have opposite meaning. What are examples of this word? Like, could I describe what the word means? Could I describe examples of this word? What are more specific words for this? Like, is the word a general word or is it a very specific word? Can I think of more specific words for this? Or what are more general words for this? Like, for example, dogs, right? Dogs, what's a more specific word for a dog? Well, there's different kinds of dogs, right? You could have a German Shepherd, you could have a poodle, you could have a Rottweiler or a pit bull. So those would be more specific words. But what's a more general word for a dog? Now, the word animal is more general. Canine would be a synonym. Cat would be an antonym. So can you make these associations with the word that you're thinking of? What about the grammar functions? What kind of a word is this? Is it a noun, a verb, an adjective, or an adverb, or a preposition, or conjunction? How can I use it in a sentence? Do I know how to use this word in a sentence in the right place? What are the other forms of this word? Okay, if this word is a noun, what is the verb form of it? If it's a verb, then maybe what is the noun or what is the adjective form? Do I know the other forms? And collocations. What other words normally go with this word? Like if I hear it or if I read it, are there other words that usually go with it? Now, collocations are kind of like words that are friends with each other. They're not always together, but they're usually together. Like the word listen and the word to. The word listen normally isn't by itself. We say listen to. You listen to music, you listen to your parents, you listen to the teacher. So listen to would be collocation. Constraints. Like, what are the restrictions on this word? When can I use it and when can't I use it? Is the word formal or informal? Is it a polite word or an impolite word? Who normally uses this word? Do men use it? Do women usually use it? Do children use it? Do adults use it? Do very intelligent people use it? Do less intelligent people use it? So how is it normally used and who normally uses it? When is the word normally used? In which situations do we use it? So let's get back to our original word, beautiful. What does it sound like? Well, I just told you what it sounds like, beautiful. But could you tell the difference between beautiful and dutiful and bountiful and pitiful? If you heard them in a sentence, could you tell the difference? Because they're all pretty similar. Dutiful, beautiful, bountiful, pitiful. How do you pronounce it? Try to pronounce the word right now. What about the written form? What does it look like? How do you spell it? Can you spell the word beautiful? Try it. Spell it out loud right now. Did you spell it correctly? What about the parts of the word? What is the root and what does it mean? Can you tell me what the root of beautiful is? Well, the root is beauty. Is there a prefix or is there a suffix, and what do they mean? Is there a prefix or a suffix on beautiful? Sure, there's the suffix full, which means to be full of something, to have lots of it. So to be beautiful means to be full of beauty. What about the form and the meaning? What does this spoken or written word mean? If I was to define it, I would say something that looks or seems very nice or pleasing. What if you're trying to remember the word? Could you remember it in a conversation? Like, if you see a flower and you want to describe the flower, would you just say it looks nice or it's pretty, or could you remember the word beautiful? How many meanings does the word beautiful have? Can you think of any other meanings? Does it only apply to the way things look? For example, if I said she has a beautiful mind, is that a way of using beautiful that you've ever heard of before or that you thought about to describe like somebody's mind as beautiful? What about associations? What are the synonyms? Here's some synonyms of beautiful: pretty, lovely, gorgeous, delightful, stunning, radiant. Did you think of any of these? What about antonyms? Try to think of some antonyms right now. What are some opposite words of beautiful? Did you think of any of these words? Ugly, unattractive, hideous, repulsive, crude, vulgar. You might have heard some of them, but other ones might be unfamiliar. What are some examples of beautiful things? What would you associate the word beautiful with? What about the grammar? What kind of a word is beautiful? Is it a noun, verb, adjective, adverb, preposition, conjunction, or determiner? Beautiful is an adjective, which means it describes a noun. Can you use it in a sentence? For example, this is a beautiful sunset. So here, the word beautiful as an adjective is describing the word sunset, which is a noun. What are the other forms of this word? So if beautiful is an adjective, then what is the noun form? What is the verb form? What is the adverb form? See if you can think of them right now. If beautiful is an adjective, then what is the noun form? What is the verb form? What is the adverb form? Did you think of these ones? Beauty is the noun form. Beautify is the verb form. And beautifully is the adverb form. What about collocations? When you see or hear the word beautiful, what words normally go with it? What about verbs? What verbs normally go with the word beautiful? Did you think of these verbs? Be, feel, or look. And with be, remember, be has different forms. So I can say is, are, was, were, am, will be. You can feel beautiful. You can look beautiful. You can be beautiful. What about adverbs? What words do we use to describe the word beautiful? Most beautiful, incredibly beautiful, very beautiful. What about nouns? What things do we normally describe as beautiful? Women are usually beautiful. We can say a beautiful dress, beautiful scenery, beautiful art. All of these are common words that go with the word beautiful. What about constraints? Is beautiful a formal word or an informal word? It actually can be both. Is it a polite or an impolite word? It's usually pretty polite. Who normally uses the word beautiful? Anyone can normally use it. But when is it normally used? We normally use it to describe females or feminine things or special things. We don't normally describe boys or men as beautiful. Sometimes we can describe machines as beautiful, like cars or boats, things like that. But normally it's for females or feminine things or for special things. So there are some constraints on the way that we use the word beautiful. So if you knew all of these answers already, then you can really say, I know that word. If you knew some of these answers, then you'll probably say something like, I know that word about 50%. So the next time you see a word, rather than just thinking, oh, I know that word, if you recognize it, think about, do you know how to use it in a sentence? Do you know its other forms? Do you know its spoken and written form? Could you spell it? What other words is it associated with? Can I think of examples? Can I think of antonyms and synonyms and all of these things? And then you can really get a good estimate of whether or not you know the word. Thanks.